Three political parties, namely Mzansi, the Good Party, as well as Build One South Africa, will merge this weekend to form a new centrist party. They say the official launch has taken place in Johannesburg today, where, of course, the new name, leadership and plans for the 2026 local government elections were announced. And to further unpack on this, let's now welcome political analyst, Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Professor Breakfast, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. So lots of development on the political front this weekend. Just yesterday, Action SA fielding their Kuruleni mayoral candidate, TV personality Xolani Khumalo. Today, Bosa, Good, as well as Mzansi announce that merger. What's your take on this new polygamous marriage, should we call it?
Well, I think it's a good political development. I think we must applaud maybe these political parties for a good job well done. I'll tell you why. Because when you examine the political landscape, it is very much fragmented. And that sometimes tends to confuse even the younger voters who to vote for. So because we have this shopping list of political parties, I think when political parties join forces, it's a wonderful thing because some of these political parties, you can, as I've always argued, collapse them, and make them work side by side as they have done. So I think it's a good thing because their policies, they speak to each other. And I think this will give them a strategic advantage, in my view, as long as they don't fight amongst themselves about issues of position in terms of who's going to hold which position. Otherwise, I think it's a wonderful idea because the political environment has always been fragmented. So now I think the votes that maybe would have been split will go to one political party.
It's quite interesting. They're saying they're going to have a leadership committee as the leadership structure there, Professor, that's going to comprise of all the three leaders from the different three parties. So how will this then affect, if in any way, the current GNU dynamics, Professor?
No, I don't think it will have a negative spillover effect on the GNU. Remember, they contested differently in the build-up to the general elections. Mm-hmm. Now, I think this arrangement, the way I understand it, has to do with the upcoming local government elections, which is outside the scope of the politics of the GNU and so on. So I think that is the focus, or that is the scope in terms of the demarcation of the workings of this political arrangement. So I don't think it will have a negative spillover unless now they broaden the scope of their political arrangement or partnership. So the GNU has no bearing, in my view, on this.
Very interesting reviews, in fact, there, Professor. Now, Songezo Zibi, they made a very interesting comment on how the South African political field is now being turned into somewhat of a celebrity contest type environment, I suppose, in relation to the announcement of Xolani Khumalo's mayoral pursuits. Professor, there has been rising calls for a long time in the country for leadership candidates to actually not be politicians that often blur the lines of party versus people policies. We need active individuals with a proven track record of dealing effectively with current challenges, not endless promises.
So yes, I agree that our leaders, they need to get the job done. And unfortunately, the ANC, as it has been in charge of running almost all the institutions of this country, has not done the way it should have. And because of that, I think people have been exploring different ways and means of closing the gaps. So one of them is to refine the electoral system. As you know, that we've been having the PR system, meaning that people have been voting for political parties. Yes, at local government level, we've had this hybrid system in that you could vote for a person or vote for a political party. So I think by introducing maybe people who are popular, those people can be crowd pullers. But the problem is that, and I know this is very sensitive, some of the people maybe who might be popular in the entertainment industry might not be politically or intellectually grounded. I'm not saying that all of them are like that. You find that the person maybe is popular as a celebrity, but might not be able to articulate political issues. It's not a simplistic or a straightforward thing to articulate political issues. You also need to have prior knowledge about what is happening, issues of the economy, and so on.
Absolutely. So now, Professor, let's look at the logistical as well as, of course, electoral process. Does the parties now, namely the three parties that have merged, have to now deregister and re-register with the IEC in terms of course, under the new rules as well as mandate that they now form under this new banner of the Central Party?
So I think it stands to reason that they would have been an MOU that they would have signed before joining forces into this political arrangement. You can't join forces without having something that is reduced in black and white. So that MOU will clarify the demarcation of this partnership, the focus, the workings, and so on. So that I'm sure is clarified in that document that they've said. I mean, you can't have a partnership of this magnitude just by a word of mouth. That will be very irrational. So they don't have to get rid of their names, but for purposes of participating together, they can maybe have one umbrella body, but still maintain their political identities, unless they want to collapse their names permanently and then have one political vehicle. So there are different ways and means of doing this, but that must have been clarified in a document, memorandum of understanding.
One wonders then what happens to the dual membership issue there, Professor, if, of course, you're suggesting that each party then still needs to keep its own identity, I suppose, under the banner of Unite for Change. Prof, as always, thank you so much for your great insights this afternoon. That is Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. He's a political analyst with some analysis as well as views on the merger of Mzansi, the Good Party, as well as Bosa to form Unite for Change.